Hi, it's David from R for the Rest of Us. I've been working with some clients recently who are coming from Excel and learning R. I thought it might be useful for them as well as for others to make a short video showing the equivalence of how to do things in Excel relative to how to do them in R. I'm going to do this by showing several key functions from the dplyr package, and I'll show what the equivalents look like in Excel. So I have made an R Markdown document that I will work through here. I'm going to begin by just loading the tidyverse package. I don't know why it's going slowly. Let me try that again. Okay. I have a short introduction here, which you can see if you look at the rendered version, which I will quickly show here, but mostly I'm going to actually walk through the R Markdown document. The data comes from the U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and I'm actually using a version that is produced from the NHANES package. So let me go ahead and read that in. NHANES, 10,000 observations, 22 variables. Cool. Here's our data set. Awesome. You can also, of course, see it by just typing the name here. And then there's also a code book, which I'm not really going to go through. But if you're interested and wondering what's going on, you can take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to start by talking about select. Select is how we choose variables if we only want to work with a few of them from our larger data set. So for example, with NHANES, we have 22 variables, but say we only want to see one of them, like height. We do NHANES and then pipe and then select height. So when I do that, you see what's returned is just the height variable. So I'm going to open Excel now, and I am actually going to bring in, open the NHANES.cs. So it's a CSV, but same concept, you're working in Excel. So if I want to do that equivalent thing in Excel, a couple ways to do it. If I want to just highlight this variable, the height variable, I could highlight other variables. I could either delete them, say, and now I have just height. I could also, of course, hide them, which basically does the same thing if I only want to see height. Okay, so that's select. Let's talk about mutate. Mutate is how we create a new variable or overwrite an existing variable. So for example, the height variable that we have here is in centimeters, but say we want to do it in inches. I could create a new variable, select height underscore inches, which is equal to height divided by 2.54. Then I'm just going to, after that, just select those two variables in order to only have to see them. So for example, now I see height and I see height inches. I've made this new variable because in my original data frame, there's no height inches here, right? There's just height. All right, let me flip over here and I'm going to make a new variable that would be this is the equivalent of doing mutate. So I'll do equals the height variable divided by 2.54. And then, of course, I could just copy that. I could go all the way down. And that's how I make a new variable in Excel, which is the equivalent of mutate. I'm going to get rid of these. They had actually been left over from when I had these as slides. So if I want to filter, I want to filter certain observations to only return, for example, those who have a height of greater than 150 centimeters. I do NHANES, pipe, filter, height is greater than 150, and then I'm just going to select height so I can only see that variable. And you can see if I were to scroll through the various pages, all of the heights here are greater than 150 centimeters. Okay, flipping over to Excel, what I might do is I might add that filtering option, and then I'm going to go in here, choose one, and I'll choose greater than 150. And when I do that now, you can see what's returned here are all the observations where the height is greater than 150. Okay. Next is summarize. Summarize enables us to take a summary of a larger data set. So for example, say I want to get the average height, the mean height. I would do summarize mean height equals mean height, and this na.rm equals true just means to drop any NAs so we can actually see the result. So when I do that, you can see mean height equals 161.8778. Okay, let's flip back to Excel. And I'm going to actually turn off for now this filtering. And I'm also going to delete the height inches just for now because we don't actually need that. So the way to do that here in Excel, one way to do that, there are of course several ways to do that, but one way to do that would be to highlight the whole column, and you can see I get my average here, 161.878, etc. Okay. There's also group by. Whoops, I have a few things left over that I'm going to get rid of from when I made slides. And I'll talk in just a minute about the slides if you're interested in seeing those as well. So group by is usually combined with summarize, and it allows us to get summaries for each group. So say, for example, I want to get the mean height but for males and females, because of course I have a gender variable here. So all I do is I add a line, group by gender, and then have the same thing, this summarized mean height equals mean height, and then na.rm equals true. I run that, and you can see now for females, I have the mean height of 156.6, and for males, 167.1913. Okay. So let me go ahead and I need to unhide, first of all. I'm going to unhide all the things that I had hid. So I have access, you can see my gender here. Okay. I am going to make a pivot table. Now I will say, I actually don't work in Excel very much, so I don't use pivot tables a ton. So if anyone sees this and is laughing at my skills in Excel, I accept that criticism. So I'm going to make this pivot table, and I am going to add gender. I'll add that to the rows there. So now I have female, male. And then I'm going to add height. Now by default, it's going to do count. It's going to show me how many observations of height we have for female and how many observations we have for males. But that's of course not what we want. We want the average. So I'll do that. And now you can see I have average for females, 156.6, and average for males, 167.191, etc., which was what we saw in R. All right, last thing is arrange. Arrange allows us to order by a certain variable. So say I want to arrange by height. When I do arrange height and then I select that variable just to show that, you can see now I'm going from lowest to highest. R does, or the arrange function does by ascending order by default. I can go all the way through here. Now the way I would do that in Excel, I could just highlight that column, sort smallest to largest. It's going to ask me if I want to expand the selection. I'll say yes. And you can see now I have sorted by height. All right, so I hope that's helpful. There is also, and I will post links to these, some slides that show these kind of one by one. And then of course the rendered R Markdown version, or the rendered HTML version of this R Markdown document will also be available, and I'll post a link for that as well.